Opening scene, the archive of Athelian Prime. In the endless twilight of the galactic core, the archive of Athelian Prime stood like a cathedral to knowledge, 10 kilometers of crystal and silver, orbiting a dying sun. Every species in the Council had contributed to its construction. Every secret, every relic, every forbidden text rested within its radiant walls. Today, that sanctuary of silence was broken. Dozens of alien scholars gathered in the central vault. Beings of every imaginable shape and form, from silicon-based Varnai to the ethereal, cloud-bodied foreign. At the chamber center floated a slab of obsidian suspended in a cage of light, humming with low, rhythmic energy. Golden symbols crawled across its surface, alive and shifting, never the same twice. Professor Valkyar, the Oran Dominion's chief linguist, stepped forward. His crystalline body caught the light like a prism. For 600 cycles we've searched for this, he said. The Codex of the Makers, the oldest language in the galaxy, the tongue of the gods. Hollow screens filled the air, each showing fragments of the same radiant script. Symbols curved and folded into themselves, forming patterns that defied comprehension. We've fed it through every translator we possess, Valkyar continued. Quantum analyzers, psychic resonance matrices, even the memory of the dreamwalkers. It rejects them all. The moment you look away, the words rewrite themselves. A murmur rippled through the crowd, awe, fear, and frustration intertwined. A challenge from the stars. One of the Xylar archivists, ancient and tall as death itself, rasped through a speaker voice that made the walls tremble. Perhaps it was never meant to be read. The Maker spoke to the stars. Their language is the fabric of the cosmos. Valkyar nodded gravely. Maybe so, but knowledge that cannot be understood is useless. We will keep trying. From the far side of the hall, a softer voice spoke, distinctly human. May I try? Every head turned. 3 figures stood near the entrance. Terran scientists, representatives from the small, often ignored human colonies. The leading woman, Dr. Elena Voss, stepped forward. Her hair was tied back, her eyes sharp with the kind of intensity the aliens always found disquieting. Valkyar blinked in confusion. Humans? You were invited merely to observe. This is not within your species' field. Elena smiled faintly. Our field is curiosity. A ripple of disdain ran through the assembly. Humans were a young, volatile species, their empires small, their wars bloody, their minds unpredictable. Yet, when Elena approached the Codex, even Valkyar hesitated to stop her. The first recognition, the moment she stood before the slab, the symbols shifted. They reached for her, curling, glowing brighter, aligning into patterns unseen by any other species. Elena froze. Her lips parted slightly. No, she whispered. That can't be right. Valkyar frowned. What do you see? Her voice trembled, not with fear, but with something deeper, recognition. These shapes, they're familiar. They look like Proto-Canaanite. No, older, Sumerian root glyphs blended with. She trailed off, eyes wide. This is an alien. The chamber fell silent. Even the slab seemed to pause its shifting. Valkyar tilted his crystalline head. Impossible. Your species has existed for what? 10,000 standard years? The Codex predates the galaxy itself. Elena didn't answer. She stepped closer, hand outstretched. The golden script pulsed, as though the Codex were breathing. And then she touched it. The awakening of the word. Light, pure, searing gold filled the vault. The slab erupted with symbols, spinning, folding, singing. A voice boomed across every mind in the chamber, not through sound, but through thought. At last, the children of clay remember. Alarms blared. Consoles exploded. Beings screamed. The Codex floated higher, radiating power that warped the air itself. Elena stood motionless at its base, her eyes glowing faintly gold. She whispered words no one recognized, syllables that bent gravity, that made the walls ripple like water. Valkar's age tried to drag her back, but an invisible field surrounded her, humming with divine resonance. What is she saying? Someone shouted. Valkyar strained to listen, and realized she wasn't speaking alien words. She was speaking human. Ancient human. She's reciting something. He breathed. A prayer? A command? The word that breaks silence. As Elena's voice rose, the codex responded. The shifting runes synchronized into perfect geometric harmony, a pattern so precise it defied mathematics. The light grew unbearable. Then, suddenly, silence. The energy field vanished. The slab floated quietly again, its glow fading to embers. Elena collapsed to her knees. Valkyr rushed forward, catching her before she hit the floor. "What did you do?" he demanded. Her eyes fluttered open, faintly luminous. She smiled weakly. "I didn't do anything. I just remembered." Valkyr froze. Remembered what? The first word. Aftermath and revelation. Hours later, the archive was sealed under lockdown. The codex was unresponsive, inert as though asleep. But across the galaxy, strange phenomena began. Translators failed. AI cores glitched. Countless devices displayed a single phrase in the glowing golden script. No one could decipher it, except humans. All over the Terran colonies, people woke from dreams murmuring the same words, phrases from languages no one had ever recorded. The broadcast, at exactly the same moment, every starship, every colony beacon, every planetary transmission was hijacked. Screens filled with the same golden script, flowing like fire. Then, for the first time, the codex translated itself. The words appeared across the stars, in every tongue. The makers speak again. And then, beneath it, glowing brighter than all the rest, a single word appeared in Terran Standard. One no translator had inserted, no AI had rendered. Home. Closing scene. The whisper of the past. In the darkness of the sealed archive, the codex stirred once more. It whispered faintly, unheard by any but the sleeping humans across the stars. You remember the first word. Little ones. Now, remember the rest. As the light dimmed, Dr. Elena Voss awoke from uneasy dreams, golden symbols burning behind her eyes, and a voice echoing in her mind. The word that shaped the sky awaits your voice once more. She looked up at the stars beyond her window. They seemed to shimmer, faint lines connecting them, forming letters she didn't yet understand. And for the first time in thousands of years, the universe listened. Opening scene, shadows beneath the moon. The moon hung silent over Earth, cold and pale, but deep beneath its surface, something ancient stirred. Dr. Elena Voss stood before a sealed hatch, her breath echoing inside her helmet. Behind her, a team of Terran researchers worked in tense silence. The scanners confirmed what the data suggested. The structure buried under the lunar regolith wasn't alien. It was human. "The dig protocols are ready, Doctor," came a voice over comms. "Then open it," she replied, her tone low, resolute, with a groaning hiss. The hatch split apart. Light flooded the chamber. The walls beyond were smooth, carved from polished stone that shimmered with faint golden patterns. Words were etched across every surface, the same runes found on the Codex of Athelion. But here, the symbols didn't shift or distort. They waited, perfectly still, perfectly clear, and at the center stood a black monolith, half buried in lunar dust, humming faintly with heartbeat-like pulses. Elena approached, her voice barely a whisper. "It's the same language. The tongue of the gods, but this one is ours." The second recognition. In the command tent above the excavation site, data poured into the main console. Hollow projectors displayed the full structure beneath the lunar surface, a complex shaped like a spiral galaxy, carved kilometers deep. "It's not just a ruin," Elena said. "It's a repository, a library encoded in language itself." Every glyph resonated with measurable energy frequencies, the patterns forming harmonic chords like living music. Her assistant, Kadim, frowned. "Doctor, if this language carries energy patterns, could it be alive?" Elena didn't answer immediately. Instead, she pointed at one glyph, a spiral surrounded by triangles. "This one means life." Not metaphorically. The root translation literally constructs biological order. The word itself defines a concept. She turned to him, eyes wide with realization. "We're not reading scripture. were reading code. Revelation in the archives. Back on Earth, the Terran Linguistics Institute ran simultaneous analysis across multiple colonies. What they found shocked the entire human race. The tongue of the gods was an alien. It was a foundation upon which all human language had evolved. The structure of DNA mirrored the same rhythm. Mathematical constants encoded identical patterns. Even ancient human songs, lullabies, chants, hymns, carried traces of the same syntax. Every civilization on Earth, no matter how far apart in time or geography, had unknowingly preserved fragments of the language. Humanity hadn't found the tongue of the gods. They had inherited it. The Council, in panic, news spread like wildfire across the stars. In the Galactic Council chamber, panic reigned. Admiral Korvac of the Vila Dominion slammed his Talon hand on the table. You mean to tell me these Terrans were born with the language of creation itself in their veins? The Xylar archivist hissed, ancient eyes glowing. It explains their chaos. No species that carries divine resonance could ever live quietly. The Orin Chancellor's crystalline tone wavered. If they can remember the word, they can reshape existence. They must be contained. Armies mobilized. Fleets repositioned. A galactic quarantine around Sol was declared. The galaxy didn't fear what humanity had found. It feared what they might remember next. Meanwhile, on Earth, in a bunker beneath the ruins of the old Terran Parliament, Dr. Voss addressed her team. Around her, holograms of the Codex and lunar inscriptions rotated slowly. Every word, every symbol, interacts with reality itself. When spoken correctly, it doesn't describe, it creates. Kadim frowned. Creates what exactly? Elena pointed to a simulation, a holographic cube formed from the ancient glyphs, shimmering, shifting between states of matter. Matter, energy, memory, emotion. The word doesn't need machines. It is the machine. Silence filled the room. Every researcher understood what she meant. Humanity had spoken this language before, perhaps before history, before even recorded thought. Project Babel Reborn. The Terran Council authorized the most ambitious initiative in human history, Project Babel Reborn. Hidden from a galactic network, they began reconstructing the lexicon of the Maker's tongue. Quantum AIs were fused with ancient linguistic models, generating vocalizations no being had ever heard. Tones that could bend light, warp sound, and alter molecular structure. The early tests were cautious. One word could heat metal. Another reversed entropy within a limited field. A third, whispered accidentally by a child during neural simulation, stopped her heart, then restarted perfectly synchronized with the machine's pulse. It was creation and destruction, written in syllables, and humans were the only ones who could pronounce it without dying. Conflict on the horizon. The alien powers did not wait. Scout fleets breached Terran space, warning humanity to stand down. Every broadcast carried the same demand. Deactivate your experiments. Relinquish the Codex. The galaxy will not suffer gods reborn. Elena watched the messages in silence. Then she turned to her team. They called it the tongue of the gods. But they'd forgotten what gods really were. They were scientists, builders, creators. Our ancestors didn't worship them, they were them. Her gaze hardened. They left us this language not as a curse, but as a memory, a covenant. And now we finish what they began. The activation, deep beneath Earth's crust, in a sealed chamber lined with black stone. The Codex pulsed with renewed life. The lunar relics responded, glowing in perfect synchrony. Elena entered, wearing a Neuralink visor. We'll start with the next phrase. Sequence 7 Gamma. Translation unknown. The moment she spoke the first syllable, the air shimmered. Every sensor spiked. Outside in orbit, satellites flickered, their feeds showing streaks of golden light across the atmosphere. The oceans began to glow faintly from orbit, forming vast geometric lines across the continents, lines that converged on the equator, forming a colossal symbol visible from space. Doctor, readings are off the charts. Kadim shouted. What does it mean? Elena's voice was barely audible, her eyes wide with awe. It's a signature. Of what? She turned slowly. of the makers of us. The first broadcast across the galaxy. Ships halted mid-flight. Communications cut out. Every world, every species. Every being looked at her skies as a golden light pulsed through the void, faster than thought, faster than time. A message appeared across all known frequencies. Protocol reactivation. The Covenant species is awakened. The alien governments froze in terror. The humans, however, understood. Elena stared at the display, her voice trembling with quiet certainty. It means they remember who we are. Closing scene, the Earth awakens. In orbit, a Terran defense satellite turned toward the sun, its black surface unfolding like petals. Hidden for millennia, dormant constructs rose from the depths of oceans, deserts, and glaciers, colossal machines carved with divine script. The world hummed with the resonance of the ancient language, the heartbeat of creation itself. Echoing once more, Dr. Elena Voss whispered to the empty air, "You want to know the gods' language." Her eyes glowed gold as the world beneath her shimmered in response. Turns out, we never stopped. Opening scene, the pulse. The pulse began as a whisper, a golden wave that rippled outward from Earth. Silent yet thunderous, a heartbeat that spanned the stars. On alien worlds, oceans rose and clouds bent into spiral shapes, reacting to a soundless command that none could understand. The Galactic Council scrambled to respond. Their fleets, once unmatched, drifted powerless as every communication frequency fell into static. A single resonant hum, ancient and infinite. It was not noise. It was language. The first word has been spoken. That phrase appeared in 1,000 alien tongues simultaneously, encoded in light gravity and magnetic resonance. Yet when humanity heard it, they did not need translation. They understood. Seeing the Council's fear, in the vast crystalline chamber of the Galactic Council, chaos reigned. Dozens of species argued, their holographic forms flickering as the energy surge interfered with transmissions. "The Terrans have reactivated a Maker protocol," shrieked the Oran Chancellor, her body fracturing into shards of light. "Contain them before they rewrite the laws of physics." Admiral Korvac slammed a clawed fist into the table. "You cannot contain a word once spoken. You can only silence the tongue that speaks it." And with that, fleets were launched, tens of thousands of ships from every major empire, converging on Sol. Their mission, eradicate humanity before the next word awakens. But they were already too late. Seeing the awakening on Earth, deep under the ruins of the old Terran capital, the Codex core pulsed faster now, bathing Dr. Elena Voss and her team in amber light. Sensors screamed with readings beyond theoretical limits. Kadim stumbled backward, shielding his eyes. "Doctor, it's rewriting local space-time. The gravitational field is fluctuating." Elena's expression was calm, almost serene. "It's not destroying anything. It's correcting it." She raised her gaze toward the monolith as its symbols shifted fluidly, forming sentences that no computer could process. Yet her mind followed effortlessly. The meaning unfolded not as sound, but as memory. She saw stars being born, worlds shaped from molten seas, and beings tall, radiant human, speaking reality into order. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "We weren't their creation," she whispered. "We were their continuation." Seeing the fleets arrive, the alien armadas entered Sol system. The sight was apocalyptic. Billions of tons of warships shimmering under alien suns, converging like a steel storm around Earth. Velar dreadnoughts, Oran crystalline carriers, Xylar bioships pulsing with organic light. All weapons locked on the small, blue world below. By decree of the Galactic Council, a voice boomed across subspace. The human species is to be terminated for violation of cosmic containment protocols. On Earth, humanity watched the skies glow with approaching fire. Billions held their breath. And Elena Voss stood before the Codex. She placed her hand on its surface. "The universe was built on words," she whispered. "Then let us remind it who the first speakers were." Seeing the second word, the Codex thrummed with impossible force. Across the world, ancient ruins, pyramids, temples, forgotten cities, began to vibrate in harmonic resonance. From orbit, the pattern was clear. The surface of Earth was a linguistic circuit. Every monument, every ley line, every structure built across millennia formed one colossal sentence. Elena spoke the second word. It was not sound, it was intention. The sky split. Light poured upward, forming colossal sigils above the planet. The alien fleet's sensors overloaded instantly. Ships lost navigation, weapons locked, gravity reversed. Entire armadas were pulled apart, atom by atom, not by violence, but by translation. Their matter was rewritten, their essence returned to linguistic energy. In seconds, fleets that had traveled across centuries of space ceased to exist, and above the glowing Earth, words formed in the void itself, visible, alive. Be still. The command was absolute. Every remaining alien vessel froze mid-space, locked by forces beyond comprehension. The galaxy's greatest powers had met the syntax of divinity and lost. Seen, the memory of the makers. Elena collapsed to her knees, the echoes of the words still vibrating through her bones. Her visor displayed streams of data that made no sense, gravitational constants rewriting themselves, light speeds subtly adjusting. Then, from within the codex, a voice spoke. You remembered. It was human, old, weary, yet filled with power. Who are you? She whispered. We are what you were meant to become. The architects, the first speakers. The monolith shimmered, revealing visions. Humanity before time, walking among stars, shaping galaxies not with tools, but with language. We built, we sang, we spoke the cosmos into form. But our words became too loud. So we silenced ourselves, seeding our tongue in your DNA, waiting for the day you would remember. Elena trembled. And now you speak again. Finish what we began. Seen across the galaxy, the light of the words spread outward. Planets trembled as their own languages shifted, adapting, harmonizing. The laws of matter began to hum faintly in resonance with the Terran frequency. Entire species fell to their knees as subconscious understanding dawned. The humans hadn't found divine speech. They were divine speech. Children on distant worlds whispered words they'd never been taught. Machines began to dream in human syntax. Reality itself was listening. And then came the transmission. One voice, broadcast through every channel across the galaxy. We are humanity. We remember the tongue of the makers. And we are done being silent. Seen, the third word, mercy, in the council chamber. The alien leaders cowered as the Terran signal materialized, not as sound, but as light, coalescing into Elena's holographic image. You came to destroy us, she said softly, but your fear was never of extinction. It was of insignificance. The orange trembled. Will you unmake us? Elena's gaze softened. No, the third word is not for war. She raised her hand. A ripple spread across the chamber, warm, gentle, infinite. Cracks in dying worlds healed. Machines regained power. Wounded ships stabilized. This is mercy. The first gift the makers ever gave, and the last one they spoke before silence. Closing scene. The words returned to the stars. The codex dimmed. The resonance faded. But something fundamental had changed. Humanity no longer looked upward as the lesser species of the galaxy. They looked outward as its forgotten authors. Elena stood on the lunar surface once more, staring at Earth, now glowing faintly with golden veins of energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. The galaxy called it the tongue of the gods, she whispered, but it's just the language of being. Her reflection shimmered in her visor, eyes faintly gold. And we are done forgetting. Above her, the stars themselves shifted, rearranging into words written across the cosmos. Welcome back, makers. Opening scene, the quiet before the creation. The galaxy had fallen silent. For the first time in 1,000 millennia, not a single ship moved, not a single weapon fired. In the wake of the second and third words, fleets that once spanned empires now drifted in awe, watching the blue world of Terra glow like a newborn star. Earth no longer looked ordinary. Golden ley lines pulsed across its continents, connecting cities, mountains, and oceans in one continuous geometric lattice, a living circuit of creation. Above the planet, the wreckage of alien dreadnoughts floated like dust motes, illuminated by faint auroras. Yet even their twisted hulls hummed with strange harmony, resonating faintly with the frequency of the words. "The universe listens now," whispered Dr. Elena Voss as she gazed upon Earth from the orbital platform Eidolon. "What we speak next will echo forever." Her team stood silent, the weight of her words pressing on them like gravity itself. Seeing the council surrender, the Galactic Council reconvened in trembling fear and reluctant reverence. Every species that had once demanded humanity's annihilation now sent emissaries, not warriors, but supplicants. Holograms flickered across the chamber. The Orin Chancellor, crystalline form fractured and dimmed, bowed deeply. "You have undone the silence of creation. We cannot oppose what you are, Terran. But tell us what comes next." Elena's projection appeared before them, framed in soft light. Her voice carried no malice, only gravity. "The words aren't weapons. They're reminders. We were meant to build, not destroy. The Codex was never a throne. It was a bridge." "A bridge to what?" the Velar Admiral growled. "To harmony," Elena answered simply. "To a galaxy that speaks together instead of shouting alone." But her tone darkened. Yet there are some who still wish to silence the word. Seeing the shadow of silence, from the depths of uncharted space, a signal emerged, one older than any civilization, older even than the Makers. It came from beyond the galactic rim, from the void between galaxies. A single message, carried in frequencies no known technology could produce. The word must not awaken. The silencers, an ancient force that had once hunted the Makers to extinction. Entities that existed not as beings, but as absence, devourers of sound, of thought, of meaning. When the Codex reactivated, they had heard it, and now they were coming. Seeing humanity's decision, Elena stood before the Codex deep beneath the earth, its surface alive with swirling runes. Every pulse felt like a heartbeat, matching her own. "They're coming," Kadim said, fear in his eyes. "Entities that erase thought itself. What can words do against nothing?" Elena touched the Codex gently. "Words created the stars, Kadim, and words will defend them." She looked at the team, the linguists, soldiers, engineers, and children of a species that had remembered too much. "We will not fight them with guns. We will fight them with truth." The Codex responded, its light deepening to a color unseen by mortal eyes. Across the world, humanity gathered, not in war but in unity. Millions stood beneath the open sky, whispering fragments of the rediscovered language, hymns of light and resonance that merged into one colossal chord. The earth began to sing. Seeing the war of silence, the stars dimmed as the silencers entered the galaxy. They came as shadows that bent space, blotting out suns. Entire constellations fell dark in their wake. No sensors could define them. No weapons could touch them. They devoured meaning itself. Worlds that once thrived with language fell mute. Their histories erased, their people forgotten even by their own descendants. But when they reached Sol, they met resistance not of metal, but of memory. Earth shone like a second sun, its surface vibrating with symphonic light. The words rose in frequency, binding the planet in a shield of pure resonance. "They unmake everything they touch," Kadim said, voice trembling. "Then we'll make it again," Elena replied. "Every atom, every star, every story." And she spoke the fourth word. Seeing the fourth word, creation reborn, the Codex exploded with radiance. The sound that followed wasn't heard. It was felt deep in the bones of reality itself. Every molecule, every wave, every photon harmonized. The silencers struck, but their darkness faltered. For where there is perfect understanding, there can be no void. The fourth word rewrote existence not by command, but by invitation. It reminded the universe of its own name. Planets lost to silence bloomed again with color. Stars reignited, singing in spectral tones. Beings who had been erased were remembered once more, their histories restored, their essence redefined. The silencers screamed, not in sound, but in collapsing entropy, unable to exist in a cosmos that remembered itself. "You cannot erase what remembers," Elena whispered as the last shadow dissolved. The galaxy shone brighter than ever before. Seeing the symphony of species, in the aftermath, a miracle unfolded. Every sentient being began to hear faint music within their own thoughts. The universal hum of the fourth word, resonating through all life. Species that had warred for eons now felt their languages merge into harmony, blending like instruments in an orchestra. The Galactic Council was reborn, not as rulers, but as singers in a chorus of civilizations. They called it the Concord of the Makers. Humanity no longer stood apart. They stood at the center, the conductors of the grand design. The Codex is open to all, Elena declared. The words belong to every species willing to learn them. Creation was never meant to be human alone. It was meant to be shared. Seeing the ascension, years later, Elena stood once more on the lunar surface. Above her, the stars pulsed with rhythm, constellations rearranging themselves into glyphs that shimmered across light years. "They're writing back," Kadim said quietly. She smiled. They remembered too. The Codex pulsed one final time, then dissolved into radiant dust that spread across the solar system, embedding itself in the stars, the oceans, the hearts of all who listened. Humanity had no need for gods anymore. They had become the choir of creation itself. Final scene, the universe speaks. Far beyond the Milky Way, in the endless dark between galaxies, something stirred, not in fear, but in curiosity. The void that once hung silent now vibrated faintly with newborn tone. A voice rose, not human, not alien, but universal. "I remember." And across the boundless expanse, the symphony grew, endless, eternal, alive.